this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Do you want to find a stress-free way to buy your next car? Start at CarMax and shop your way. And if you want to browse with confidence, get pre-qualified online with no impact on your credit score and shop cars within your budget. From luxury cars to family rides, CarMax has options for almost every price range, including more than 25,000 cars priced under $25,000. So, hey, want to get started? Just head to CarMax.com for details and get pre-qualified today. Want to drive? CarMax.
Introducing Home Care Plus, a new subscription service from Lowe's that helps make life easier by giving members a hand with home maintenance. Let Lowe's tackle the tasks you keep meaning to do, like electric dryer vent cleaning, replacing hard-to-reach light bulbs, and more. Subscribe to Home Care Plus for just $99 a year and consider your to-do list done. Members get more at Lowe's. Available in select zip codes only. Cancel anytime. Non-refundable fee. Product purchase required. Terms and service restrictions apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore. It goes without saying, as you get older, the joints wear down. And I'm certainly no exception. And I know this is not revelatory for anybody out there, but boy, I miss doing things that I used to do. And one of the things that I really enjoyed doing when I guess I was in my 20s and in my 30s was playing softball leagues. I loved doing it. I really did. I was never a good baseball player, but there's something about being able to hit an underhand pitched ball that's the size of a grapefruit. That's something I could handle. I always played third base. I was a good third baseman. But the problem is that you really got to be able to throw and throw hard, and my shoulder just won't do it anymore. But the thing I enjoyed most about softball was hanging out with my friends. There's just something about playing softball and doing that. Go to a bar, hang out, have a few beers, and go home. It's kind of like a release from the rest of the workaday world. Oh, today I want to discuss a case involving a young woman who enjoyed playing softball as well. And like me, in my younger days, she liked going to a particular pub and hanging out with her friends after playing. And as a matter of fact, right before she was last seen alive, she was at such a place after a softball game. And within days, and she's found on a roadside, dead, by workers that just happen to be working in the same area. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Now, Dave, I know that you used to like to play softball just like I did, but I guess I'm relegated. You and I both we live parallel existences now. We are both relegated to the stands watching our grandsons play baseball. And that's about as close as, if I tried to throw a baseball with Jameson right now, the ball would probably go about 3 feet and just nosedive into the dirt. My shoulder can't handle it anymore. Well, it's amazing. You take all of that stuff for granted, man.
You do. I was going to say that is exactly what I did too when I was younger. But one of the good things that has come with Braylon, and it kicked in for him between last year and this year, is his ability to play catch. Because all children learn at different levels, times, and speeds and ages. And when I say play catch, I mean throw hard, catch hard, and be able to really play. And he got that. And so the first time we went out, I threw for about 10 minutes, man. It was over. My arm hurt. I was putting my elbow in ice. I mean, it was bad. But now, as we're at the end of the year, I'm out there. I can throw. I can play. I even have started, I was going to say exercise. But I don't think getting up from the recliner and running to the refrigerator during commercials counts, but I'm counting it. At any rate, today we're talking about the death of a young woman who went and played a ball game with her friends, went out to have a couple of adult beverages, just having a couple of beers with your friends. And then the last time she is seen alive is being dropped off at her apartment complex. I was talking to Joe about this before we started because this is where the entire story gets foggy, because we don't know what transpired between the time she got out of the vehicle and the time that she did or did not arrive at her apartment. We have no proof she arrived inside her apartment, and we have no proof that she didn't. What we do have is that she's dropped off, and hours later, next day, she is found dead. This 20-year-old, let me give you the quick bio on her, Joe. Student at Salem State University. Works at the National Braille Press. A sophomore in college. She's well-liked, well thought of. And her death shocked all of her friends and family. But, Joe, her body was found in a wooded area off of a highway, off of a major thoroughfare. And we're dealing with Massachusetts, by the way. I apologize for not clearing that up earlier. And she was found by workers, road crew people. When her body was found, we have the time that she was dropped off by her friends, Joe, and the time her body was found. And we don't know what happened in that time period. And in 1986, while they being investigators, did have a number of ways of solving crimes. I mean, you were doing it at that point, but DNA was not a real factor at that point.
No.
So when investigators were working a crime scene like this, how did they collect and store and manage the crime scene?
Very carefully. And with any female subject that I would have, let's face it, women are generally the subject of aggravated sexual attacks. And so anytime I had a female, that was found in an isolated area and deceased, I worked that case as if they were raped, because, it's like I always say, you cannot go back and try to work it again as something that, you have in your mind. My rule of thumb has always been, I work from the worst case scenario. Okay. Mm-hmm. If I work from the perspective of what's the worst thing or the most involved thing, the most detailed thing that I could be faced with in the field, then without pigeonholing myself too much intellectually, I have a chance of being a success in the way I process the scene and process the body. If I go in there haphazard and, just kind of randomize everything and not be very ordered, you're going to lose stuff along the way. And it can be the tiniest bit of things. For us back then, and I was just getting my career started at that point in time. I was taught all manner of things relative to cases where you might suspect sexual assault. Did you know that with cases like this, I think that people associate bagging the hands with firearms related cases. If I had a case like this, I would always bag their hands. If they were barefoot, I'd bag their feet as well. I've even had cases where I've bagged heads in case there's trace evidence in the hair.
How would
if
you
it
do
seemed
that?
delicate on any way, I would have a large brown paper grocery bag, and put it around the head, tape it around the neck. I did the same thing with the hands, and sometimes I'd do it with feet. And that's so that when I get the body back to the morgue, that we can do things like if we want to do tape lifts, where you literally take a bit of tape and you place it over an area of the body specifically, and you lift it up. You fold that tape back on itself, and you save any kind of trace elements like fibers, threads, skin particles, anything like that would be saved on the adhesive side of the tape. I'd want to protect that as best I could when I can get back into a controlled environment. For instance, with Claire's body out at this location where she's found, I'm not going to do a tape lift out there. I'll be thinking about doing a tape lift, and I'll handle the body as if I'm going to do a tape lift, but I can't do it out there. You're fighting with elements. You're fighting with degrading things that are out there. You don't have a controlled environment. Plus, you've got all manner of people hanging over your shoulder that you're not going to have like back at the morgue. So you do your best to contain the body. One other thing that people don't realize in a case like Claire's case, one of the things that we would do is, and this started years and years ago, it's still in practice today, we always had clean white sheets. And when I say cleaned, it's these sheets would come from hospitals that we had a contract with. They would be packaged. And so you don't just put a body into a body bag. You line the body bag with a clean white sheet, and then you cocoon the body inside of the sheet, and then zip the body up and lock the bag we have bag locks that we lock the bag. And that way, anything that might be on the external part of the body, if it falls away, it's going to fall into that sheet, and you'll have it. It's not just going to like blow away, or if you just put the body bare bones into the bag, it's not just going to fall loose into the bag. So you'd have to secure the sheet too.
When you're at the crime scene and you're putting the sheet on the individual, and I'm not trying to get down to the minutia here, but I'm kind of curious. In this case where she's laying in dirt and maybe some foliage or whatever, would you lay the sheet over the length of her body and then pull it up underneath?
No. You open the body bag completely, and that is with the flap that you zip down. That's open completely. You line the bag with the sheet, and then as much muscle as you can get around the body, because there's a reason why they refer to bodies as dead weight, on all 4 points, the head, the shoulders, and both feet. You gently lift the body up, move it over, and gently set it down inside the bag that's already open with the sheet in it. Then you take the sheet, and I've seen people roll the body, or not roll the body, but kind of wrap the body with one edge and then flip it over and literally tape the edges of it. I've seen people that would take both ends of the sheet and twist them in opposite directions.
Oh, wow.
And actually tape the ends of the sheet. Wow. I'm not trying to be flippant or or disrespectful, but the sheet, it looks like a gigantic joint,
Yeah.
After you're done, because it's kind of twisted, taped on both
those of
ends,
us
and
who
that
have,
way you
never used
ensure
anything
that
like that and have no idea what a joint is.
Well, it's all about containment, and it's containment and preservation of the evidence. And outdoor scenes like this, particularly where you believe that there's some kind of assault, probably sexual assault that's taken place, you can't leave anything to chance. And I think that, Dave, it's because of the actions that those officers took out there back in 1986 that you and I, literally in 2026, are talking about this case. And that's quite exciting to me, as to how they handled that case, all the way back then.
You know what's wild? We can video chat from space, order groceries just by talking out loud. And men have like 17 options for hair loss alone. But a bra that actually fits and feels good? Apparently, too much to ask. Until now. Meet the Uplift bra from Knix. That's KNIX. A wireless bra that finally delivers real lift and all-day comfort. The secret? Molded cups with a built-in foam panel that gently enhances your natural shape. So you get a subtle boost without wires, digging, or that "why am I still wearing this" moment at 3 p.m. You asked for it. We delivered. In a push-up bra that doesn't dig, poke, or pinch. And with an extensive size range from 28A through 42E, you'll be sure to find your perfect fit with the Uplift. Try the Uplift bra at Knix.com and use code PERFECTFIT15 for 15% off your first order. That's KNIX.com, code PERFECTFIT15. Knix.com.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, starting at just $699. Plus, Anabay sofas are pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and feature changeable slip covers and modular pieces. Get up to 60% off site-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Visit washablesofas.com to get yours now. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Wasn't that delicious?
So good.
Your bill, ladies.
I got it. No,
I got it.
Seriously, I insist. I insisted first.
Oh, don't be silly.
You don't be silly.
People with the Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card prefer to pay because they earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors for it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. No!
The Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Terms apply.
Doesn't it seem, Dave, that, back in the late 70s and, well, I guess the 70s in general and into the 80s, perpetrators would be given names by the press. And if there wasn't one that was pre-existing that the police used, the press would make it up. You think back in, what was it, 75 or 74 with Berkowitz, you had the 44 caliber killer, and what was it? He wound up becoming, not the Night Stalker. What was it that, Son of Sam, and then, you have people like the Night Stalker with Richard Ramirez,
Hillside Strangler.
Hillside Strangler, and they call that, and we ought to do those cases sometimes with it. That's one of the things that's really fascinating, because Hillside Strangler, out of all of those serialized events that took place back then, it wasn't singular. It's, that implies, that name implies a single killer. It was two cousins that did it. So it was stranglers. And, but those names, those monikers, are hung on people. And, in this particular case, Dave, with, this young lady, Clair Gravel, she had apparently fallen victim to someone that had been eventually named the Hamilton Strangler. I mean, that term itself almost sounds cheesy, like some true detective writer, pulp fiction writer would invent that. But that's not the case. That name is actually a name that was given to this individual, and is a very real individual. And here you have this, young, beautiful, redheaded young woman who wanted to hang out with her friends, was working at a publishing house that published, the biggest publisher of Braille books, publishing those, and going to Salem College, had her whole life in front of her. And, it gives you pause. You really think about these perpetrators out there. At what point in time do they put eyes on their victim? How do they identify, I think, who the most vulnerable among us are? Who is it what is it about an individual that these individuals can actually target them and say, this is, in the way they measure it, this is going to be a success. And he picked her, Dave. And boy, what a horrible case that the family's been living with for all these many years.
And the thing is, Joe, is that this case would have been unsolved because it went cold fairly quickly. Investigators were able to exhaust the inner circle, all of the friends and who you were with, and tracing back to the game earlier in the day through the bar that night. The owner of the bar even said, look, she was just her normal self. This was a place her softball team came and played, after they got done with their game. I mean, it was just a regular night. She gets dropped off at home by friends. They see her walking towards her apartment, and that's it. And so once the police go through all of the things they can in 1986, they ran out of people, Joe. But they did keep the evidence. They kept the autopsy that was done said that she was strangled by her tank top. The tank top she was wearing became the garrote around her neck. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah. And, let me kind of clarify this a little bit. When some people will say garrote, others will say garrote. I always say garrote, just like you do. Most of the time, a garrote is a mechanism that's utilized. Sometimes it'll have a single handle on it. Other times it'll have two. I've seen them made out of rope. I've seen them made out of wire. There are a lot of stories that are out there, and I don't know if some of them are apocryphal, where people have been strangled with wire garrotes, and allegedly heads have almost come off as a result of the surface area of the wire, because it's so tiny, cuts into the skin. I've had really deep ligatures. I've never had a head pinched off, but you have to differentiate between a garrote, which is in fact a ligature, but it's very specific in the way it's designed. Matter of fact, I think back during Vietnam, some individuals that worked in special operations in Vietnam were known to carry garrotes with them so that they could sneak up on an individual and take their life, because it's generally a way you approach somebody from the rear and you loop it over their head and the hands are opposing, and then you pull them apart, and that creates tension, very hard to escape from.
Wow.
Then we have a generalized ligature. And here's the interesting thing about this, Dave. They're saying that in this particular case, in Claire's case, that her tank top was utilized in bringing about her death. Well, Dave, that tells me that whoever did this is not highly organized, because they did not show up with the means in order to facilitate this. They didn't have, you think of burglars that have burglary kits, and I know that we've talked on other shows, Dave, where you have individuals that are perpetrators, serialized perpetrators, and they actually have what's called a murder kit. Mm-hmm. Bundy was infamous for having a murder kit.
That's what actually got him pulled in Utah, because they saw him running his Volkswagen without the lights on, and when they stopped him, he had he had a burglary kit and a murder kit right there. Wow.
Yeah, and I think is that when the front seat had been removed out of that, we call them doodle bugs, out of the VW bug, and to facilitate this sort of thing. So when you think about this case involving Claire, the individual has not shown up prepared. They actually were dependent upon, and who's to say this individual could have used their bare hands very easily, but yet they were reliant upon a garment that was belonging to the victim in order to facilitate her death, which of course turns out to be an asphyxial death, Dave, and they had identified that way back when.
Oh yeah. Early on, they knew how she died, and they knew that her tank top was used, and the tank top contained, I don't know what it was referred to back then. What did investigators say when they had, now we would say, well, they found DNA on this particular piece of the tank top. What would they have called it then?
Yeah, I don't know that we would have been sophisticated enough to have found skin cells, sloughed skin cells like you do in touch DNA. However, maybe they found hair. Even if it's a broken shaft and they retained it, that's something you could do mitochondrial DNA off of years later. Most of the time, if we had a garment, though, we're talking about some kind of biological sample like blood, semen, saliva, that had been utilized. I really wonder, her death. I wonder if it was facilitated after a sexual act, or if the sexual act had taken place and the individual had used maybe her tank top to clean himself up with. And that evidence, that biological evidence, transferred over there. All the way back in 1986, they've got some kind of biological deposition on the surface of this tank top, and it's absorbed down into the fibers. It's absorbed well enough, and it's in place where they could go back years later and do an extraction on it and, develop a DNA profile, Dave.
It's interesting from the standpoint of how we look at things today, that you mentioned touch DNA, and little things like that. And in 1986, in our lifetime, it was something that would have been something out of Star Trek, to talk about this. But in reality, you mentioned right off the top, the investigators did an incredible job of keeping this evidence together and keeping it where it could be used later, because it wasn't usable at the time. The autopsy report said she was strangled with her tank top. And when the case went cold, everything was put up, but it was stored. It wasn't forgotten. It was just, what are we going to do? We've exhausted everything we know to do. But then the one thing they did know, again, I go back to what I was trying to find out. Where did she ever get into her apartment? They still haven't been able to tell us that. But her abductor did not kill her where her body was found. So she was abducted from her apartment complex area. She was killed someplace else, and then her body was dumped where it was found. That means you've got multiple crime scenes, Joe.
Yeah, and you do.
They were not able to locate any.
Yeah, and you're going to have, my assumption is because, her body is found in kind of an isolated location. As a matter of fact, so isolated that it took road workers to discover her remains there in kind of a semi-wooded area. There's a brush area. So we have to think, you go back, and you're thinking right here about crime scenes, plural. The point where she was last known to be alive, you had mentioned that she had been dropped off at her apartment complex, well, that's going to be numero uno on the hit parade.
Right.
We have to assume that she was taken from that location. Well, if she is in fact taken from that location, that means that there has to be a conveyance, whatever it is, I don't know, a 2-seater bicycle, a red wagon, or car, or some kind of motor vehicle accident where you could get her into the car. That brings me to think, who in the world was she taken by force, or did she know the individual? Because look, I mean, even in 1986, people were worried about strangers, and this person kind of pops onto a radar. And, did they show up in a threatening manner? That is, are they presenting with a weapon? They've got a knife, they got a hammer, or maybe they've got a gun. You come with me, or I'm going to kill you. And, you have to think about that. And then the other scene that you're talking about here is going to be the place where the body is. And of course, for me, that's going to be, entitled the primary scene. And all these other places are either secondary or tertiary. And that's kind of a fascinating element. How do you convey her from one point to the next? And also, how did you know that she would be there? That goes to a broader view of this.
Oh, wow.
Did you follow her? Had you been following her? Did you know that maybe on a specific night that she, played softball? Did you know that she frequented the Major McLeish's bar, which is the name of the bar? It's since been sold, but it's an Irish themed bar. Imagine that in Massachusetts. They probably got Guinness on tap. You go in there with your friends, you're hanging out after a ball game. And it is no more now. It's owned by somebody else, but it had been around for a long, long time, a haunt, as they say, where you would get together. So had this individual been in the same space with her? Did this individual know any of her peripheral friends? Were they associated that way? How is it that she would be targeted? You think about, well, is it her racial group? Is it the fact that she's got this striking red hair? Some of these perpetrators have an affinity for a certain hair color. I hate to always mention Bundy, but, he was notorious for that, for the brunette hair. And I think that even Son of Sam, had targeted women. Do you remember? I watched a documentary not too long ago about Son of Sam, and it actually compelled women in that area during that summer, when all that was going on, to change their hairstyles.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Because even they saw that there was a connectivity between these victims in these cases that Berkowitz was involved in. So you never know what direction this is going to point you in, but he had to have seen her at some point in time. I can't imagine you just got some guy that's randomly walking down the sidewalk in front of her apartment complex, sees her get out of a car, and then goes after her. There's more to this, Dave.
I think when I've tried to figure this out, and I'm telling you, I spent a lot of time, because it doesn't make sense to me that it just was happenstance. Because you would, in order for it to have, it means that she was abducted by somebody in the parking lot of her apartment complex that just happened to be there at the moment she got home, being dropped off by friends, and that this individual is able to get her, take her out of the apartment complex. Her body is found 4 or 5 miles away from the apartment complex. So, but based on what we're not told, okay, if she had been attacked in her apartment, we would know that. That would be part of our story, and because we would hear how the individual got into her house. Did he let her in? Did he attack her going in? We would hear all that. We're getting none of that. They've never indicated that she was taken from her apartment. It's always been the last time she was seen being dropped off at her apartment complex. So we all know how those doors are. There's multiple doors, multiple apartments side by side. Somebody could have been there waiting. Maybe that's the case. Maybe somebody saw her at the bar. I
suppose they could, but, and you and I have related our experiences from when we were young guys about living in apartments. Mm-hmm. You can't, if a mouse breaks wind next door, you're going to hear it, and so would this be an environment in which you would want to perpetrate this kind of horror? I don't know. It's my opinion that this individual knew her on some level, or it had at least lusted after her from maybe afar and had been planning this for some time. But I can tell you this, as the book closed on 1986, the police were no closer to finding the perpetrator than they were the night she was last seen alive.
You know what's wild? We can video chat from space, order groceries just by talking out loud. And men have like 17 options for hair loss alone. But a bra that actually fits and feels good? Apparently, too much to ask. Until now. Meet the Uplift bra from Knix. That's KNIX. A wireless bra that finally delivers real lift and all-day comfort. The secret? Molded cups with a built-in foam panel that gently enhances your natural shape. So you get a subtle boost without wires, digging, or that "why am I still wearing this" moment at 3 p.m. You asked for it. We delivered. In a push-up bra that doesn't dig, poke, or pinch. And with an extensive size range from 28A through 42E, you'll be sure to find your perfect fit with the Uplift. Try the Uplift bra at Knix.com and use code PERFECTFIT15 for 15% off your first order. That's KNIX.com, code PERFECTFIT15. Knix.com.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Kids, pets, life, your sofa sees it all. But with a washable sofa, stains don't stand a chance. All of our sofa collections come with fully machine washable covers and cushions, making cleanup effortless. Liquid and stain-resistant fabrics provide extra protection against everyday messes. Plus, with modular designs, you can rearrange your sofa however you like. Perfect for growing families and changing spaces. Starting at just $699, it's time to upgrade to a stress-free, mess-proof sofa. Visit washablesofas.com today and save. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Wasn't that delicious?
So good.
Your bill, ladies.
I got it. No,
I got it.
Seriously, I insist. I insisted first.
Oh, don't be silly.
You don't be silly.
People with the Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card prefer to pay because they earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors for it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. No!
The Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Terms apply.
So almost 20 years later, Dave, we're now in 2007, actually a little over 20 years. There's another case that pops onto the radar of the local constabulary up there that draws their eye. And wouldn't you know it, it also involves a young woman, a young mother in this case, which actually plays into what happened to her, doesn't it, Dave?
It's an incredible thing that takes place. 2007, remember, the 86 case goes cold.
Yeah.
They've got nothing. Not a lack of trying. They just got nothing. So now we're at 2007. And in this particular case, a woman was attacked in her apartment. It happened around 9:30 at night, 9:30, somewhere in there. And a person comes to the door, man comes to the door, and the woman is living by herself, living with her young son. No man in the house, just the two of them. And apparently the criminal created an opportunity to get inside. She opened the door for him. He didn't have to bash it down. She let him in. I'm not blaming the victim here. I'm just merely stating a fact.
You're stating facts. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, he gets inside the house and inside the apartment and begins attacking her, Joe. He is using a cord ligature to choke her. It's a key detail when you get into this because his intent was not to just beat her up and ransack the house. He came there to kill her, and he came there prepared this time. And I say this time because it is this attack, Joseph Scott Morgan, that actually solved the 1986 case. Here's how it happened. We have the woman in 2007. She is attacked by an unknown assailant inside her home. Well, during this attack, while she's being choked out, her little son hears something bad enough that he gets up and goes and intervenes. This child, this son, saves his mother's life. The would-be killer flees the scene, and the woman lives. He had dragged her through the house, Joe. I think about this attempted murder, and I think about the little boy that saved his mom. And I can't help but tell you, I think about those women that I know who have a small son at home. And I think about that biggest fear of that young woman living at home alone with their child. And not that you need a man around to protect you. Any one person with just a child at home. But this kid wears a cape. You know, he's a superhero. Saved his mama's life.
Yeah.
The strangulation continues to the point of near death. And it was characterized as an attempted murder. Now, when the child intervenes, the attack stops and the criminal runs away. Thankfully, this woman, of course, reported it and an arrest was made.
Yeah, in pretty short order.
Yeah.
Here's what's really cool about this is because, she didn't just dismiss this and say, well, I'm afraid or whatever the case was. I think probably her son had a lot to do with this. Again, that's just me speculating. She reports this case. Well, anytime you have some kind of event that occurs like this, and if it is sexual in nature, they're going to take you to the hospital. And I'm really curious because, they still to this day, I can't find her name.
They kept it out because it was a sexual assault that was kept out of the press, and the minor child kept out of the press. Her name was never revealed. And, not uncommon, even to this day, a sexual, whenever there's a sexual attack, if the woman does not allow it, they don't have to print. They will oftentimes not print the name.
Well, I wonder if another hero is involved in this, because anytime I hear about a survivor of a sexual assault and they're taken into a hospital to be examined, there's a group of forensic practitioners that don't get enough love out there. And we've actually got a couple that are friends of our program here, Dave. Mm-hmm. And those are SANE nurses. And if you've never heard of a SANE nurse, they are sexual assault nurse examiners. Now, I don't know if there was one in this emergency room. First off, there's not enough of them. It's a hard job, and you have to go through special certification. And what they do, because doctors many times that work in emergency rooms just don't have the time to do it, and they don't have skill to do it. I know that people think that doctors can do anything. They can't. When you have a nurse that is specifically trained to work with victims and also collect evidence, that's a powerhouse. So whoever it was collected a sample from her. Now, I don't know if they did some type of pelvic exam on her or if there were items that were left behind that had DNA on them. But I can tell you this unknown, and remember, for our system, we have two categories. And of course, what I'm referring to is the combined DNA index system, otherwise known as CODIS. We have a known group of people where if you have predators that are out there, people that have been compelled by the court, they have to submit DNA sample, right? So those individuals are known. Then we have what's called the forensic database, or the unknown. It's, probably more accurately the unknown. So that means that you've got a sample that's floating around from some case. It's been entered into the system, and there's a profile that's been developed. Well, Dave, whoever it was back then in 2007, they collected information from this particular case, and guess what? It was entered into CODIS. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a major event here, turning point, because, as Clair's case, as you had mentioned, all the way back from 1986, had been going cold.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it heats up because of all of the interest that we have now in cold case investigations, right, and because of the science that we have. Well, brother, they took that old DNA from the 1986 case, and because someone had been arrested in the case from 2006.
Right, 2007. That's what I was saying,
2007.
Joe. The attack in 2007, the arrest of John Kerry for that crime. He went to trial, he was convicted, and he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, Joe. John Kerry was sentenced, and because he was convicted, they got his DNA. They did the full workout on his DNA, and so it's in the system. So, as you mentioned, the cold case, people are interested in it, and they being the investigators in the Clair's case, they never gave up, and they said, let's run it through code. Maybe we can get a hit now. And they did. And when it came back to John Kerry. And by the way, he was still in prison, and they had him. They didn't have to go track him down. They didn't have to find him. They went right to his jail cell and said, hey, we got you. And they did.
Can you imagine being a cop? I mean, really, just put yourself in what kind of exhilarating feeling would that be?
Oh, man.
Literally, you've been working a cold case, or it's been handed off to you. And maybe when you came on with the department, you knew about this cold case because it was so horrible. And by the by, the perpetrator, the unknown perpetrator in this case, had been given a moniker. Anytime somebody's given a moniker, the case is known about. It will be known about in the department, and you're assigned to this. And you say, you know what, maybe I ought to take this sample from 1986, because you never know what's going to happen. And you run it, you put it into the system, and suddenly flashing lights are going off, fireworks are going off. I don't know what happens. You get a notification, I guess. It's something probably, that benign. And they say, you know what, your profile that you just submitted matches somebody that we have in the system. And not only does it match someone that's in the system, this subject's incarcerated right now. This subject is incarcerated. And what a joyful event in the midst of all of this tragedy, Dave, that they could put a name with a perpetrator after all these years.
And they were able to compare the crimes. They were able to take the 2007 attack in the apartment where that heroic young child was able to save his mama. This guy bolted from that. And I wonder, Joe, between the death of Clair Gravel in 1986 and the thwarted attack in 2007, are you going to tell me there was not another attack? This guy did not make another attack in that 20 years? Not one?
No. I can't imagine. And here's the thing with that. And look, until you have walked a mile in the shoes of a sexual assault victim, spare me your judgments, because you don't know what it's like to be in that environment. How many women did somebody like this, somebody like him, somebody specifically like him, how many other women had he attacked? And because of the shame around that sort of thing, they just decided not to report. It didn't wind up in a fatal event, but they didn't want to come forward. And lots of times I think that happens because what they see played out in the news media. You'll have cases where individuals are reported. You think they're going to be dead to rights, and the system fails them miserably. But in this case, it didn't. In this case, we have an individual that has been identified. He has been named, he has been convicted, and he has been sentenced. He will remain in prison for the rest of his natural-born life, all because the detectives back in 1986 did their job. They did their job to the best of their ability at the time and retained this evidence. Retained it to the point where it was still viable. It still had utility. And Lord only knows how many other lives they may have saved, or, as the future may reveal, how many conclusions this might open up for people that have been wondering all these years. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Okay, laundry stinks, literally. I mean, you could just keep buying new underwear. Not that I've ever done that. Or maybe sort your clothes into piles based on how re-wearable or filthy they are. Or just use Arm & Hammer Deep Clean. It's made for real-life stinks and stains. So even if you don't do laundry the, quote, right way, Deep Clean will knock it out. I mean, it is from the #1 liquid detergent brand that tackles more loads than any other. Come clean with Arm & Hammer Deep Clean. #1 claim based on total wash loads sold.
There's no denying it. Moms make the world go round. Celebrate mom with a gift that really pops. A personalized Funko Pop, where you'll select hair, clothing, and skin tone options to match her go-to look. Don't forget to show off her special talents, hobbies, and interests with accessories to match. You can even add her favorite furry friend. Show mom the love this year. Start creating now at Funko.com.
Be unique, not anyone else. Express it now. Just pop yourself.
That's Funko.com.
This is Bethany Frankel from Just Be With Bethany Frankel. Listen, I have a bone to pick with these dog food brands calling themselves fresh, natural, healthy. Sounds great, but a lot of these quote-unquote fresh dog foods in your fridge are not even 100% human grade, which is why feed your babies Just Food for Dogs. It's good enough for Biggie and Smalls, my precious babies, so it's good enough for your babies. 100% human grade, real ingredients, beef, sweet potatoes, green beans, delicious. These are foods that you would want to eat. Not that the babies would ever share. Just Food for Dogs is the #1 vet-recommended fresh dog food backed by over a decade of research. No marketing fluff. My dogs lose their minds at dinner. They run to the bowl, tags wagging, paws tapping, full Broadway performance every single night. So I do care about the food I feed Biggie and Smalls. So go to justfoodfordogs.com for 50% off your first box. No code, no gimmicks, just real fresh food.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.